And let's go to Perth now. For the other side of this nuclear debate, Liberal Senator Cormann has been advocating an open debate on nuclear power. Senator, why do you think Australia should be embracing nuclear power?
Well, David, if we're serious about reducing global greenhouse gas emissions and keeping an eye on our energy security moving forward, of course we have to have a proper debate about nuclear. And incidentally, I note that you had Bob Brown on the programme just now. I've been debating Green Senator Scott Ludlam all day today here in Perth, and we'll be having a debate at the Perth Town Hall tonight at 6 o'clock tonight. Where is Labor? Labor has gone missing in action. If Kevin Rudd was serious about having a debate about how we can best reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, he would be engaging in the debate about nuclear energy.
All right, but let's get back to the arguments for nuclear energy that you're putting forward. There is this cost question, which is one of the big arguments against it, that it's simply too expensive compared obviously to coal, which is so cheap in Australia, but even to some of those renewables like solar and wind.
Well, I would question as to whether it is cheaper than some of those renewables. I certainly believe that we should pursue all of the renewable options to its full potential. We should pursue clean coal and we should pursue solar, wind to its full potential. However, I don't think it's going to be sufficient for us to put all of our energy eggs into those baskets. I think that we have to seriously consider nuclear as an alternative addition to our energy mix. And the reason is that nuclear really, out of all of the alternative options to coal and gas, is a proven, reliable, secure, low-carbon emissions technology. There's more than 400 nuclear power stations around the world in more than 30 countries. We know that nuclear works. We know that it is a low-carbon emissions technology. We have to have a serious debate here in Australia.
Well, Ziggy Switkowski said $4 billion per plant, and you'd have about 10 plants by 2030. Now, even if that is a conservative estimate, it leaves out also, that just includes the construction of the plants, not the ongoing costs. So where does that money come from? It has to come from somewhere.
Well, there's no doubt that nuclear power plants are very capital intensive up front. They've got very low running costs down the track, and they've got a very long operating life. I know that in the United Kingdom, the Labour government over there has just committed to 10 additional new nuclear power stations to help them with their efforts to make massive reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. The reality is this, as coal becomes more and more expensive in the context of needing to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions, nuclear will become more and more competitive, and we need to have the debate now so we can get ourselves ready in terms of our regulatory framework, in terms of the expertise that we need to assemble here in Australia, which we currently haven't got. We just need to start having the debate so that by the time we can go across that bridge, we are ready to go for it.
Of course, as you know, the scare campaign that Labor ran at the last election focused squarely on where would the reactors be built. And of course, well, I'm not going to ask you about where they would be built because that's impossible for you to answer.
It's not a serious question. Yeah.
Well, not at the moment.
The serious... Well, I'm quite happy to talk about this because, you talk about the upfront cost, and most of the upfront cost actually relates to the unpredictable regulatory framework. We do have to, in order to go down the nuclear path at some point, we have to have a clear, predictable regulatory framework in place. And clearly, decisions on where nuclear power stations would be best located has to be determined according to sound planning and regulatory approvals processes. That is not something that we can talk about today. However, what we should be talking about today is our energy demands moving forward, how we will be able to meet them, and as much as I am a strong supporter of renewable energy and we need to go down the renewable energy path, I don't believe that renewable energy will be able to help us meet the demand that we will be facing.
Yeah, I think the question that really will have to be answered, though, is the one about storing waste, because you either store the waste where the reactor is, or you have one central deposit out in the middle of the desert. But this is clearly one of the key questions in all of this. How would you deal with this question?
Well, look, there's clearly a whole series of issues that have to be part of the public debate, and waste is one of them. I just point out that there are more than 400 reactors operating now in more than 30 countries around the world. The volume of waste is actually very low. In those countries where there is nuclear energy, or where nuclear energy is part of the energy mix, the waste from nuclear is less than 1% of the toxic industrial waste in those countries. And there are very safe and very reliable and very proven storage technologies available today. Longer term, clearly, the way to resolve the waste storage issue is by, finding ways to store it permanently in deep geological arrangements. But look, there is safe waste technology now, but this is just one of the issues that has to be part of the overall debate. Clearly, what is holding us back in Australia in terms of nuclear energy is that there is a lack of public acceptance at present, and there is a need to have a broad public debate and broad education as to what the facts of the matter are. Compared to other parts of the world, clearly we've still got a way to go in terms of bringing the Australian people with us along that road, and the debates that we're having at present have to be part of that.
A final question, Senator. With Tony Abbott taking over as leader, the party does seem to have gone back to the drawing board on what to do with its climate change policy. Would you like to see nuclear form a part of the actual Liberal Party policy position?
Well, the Liberal Party has reconfirmed our complete commitment to an unconditional 5% emissions reduction targets and other targets depending on what action is taken in other parts of the world. Now, clearly we have to go through a whole gamut of initiatives to help achieve that target. One of them will be the expansion of renewables. Energy efficiency is going to be important, land management practices. I believe that we do have to have an open and mature debate about the potential of nuclear to be part of our energy mix in the context of maintaining our energy security while achieving reductions in greenhouse gas emissions.
All right, Liberal Senator Senator Cormann joining us from Perth. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll